Welcome everybody. This is the January 2022 web dev meeting for koha-US, and Barbara's going to show us the cool stuff.
Well, maybe. So this is based on some code from North Richland Hills Public Library in Texas. It's a fancy whole pickup notice using HTML, and we kind of copied what they did. And let me see if I can bring this up. So do you see a pretty notice?
Yes, it's beautiful.
I see a pretty cool notice.
So I just used what they had and kind of substituted in, our logo, obviously, and kind of used their language. And then we decided we wanted to, they had links to Facebook and some other stuff. We decided to put in links to our Facebook and Instagram. The middle one here takes you to log into your account, to the events calendar, and then, not that anybody will ever do it, but a big old little money bag that goes to our donate page, which nobody ever does donate, but we thought, hey, maybe if you saw it in the notice, you might wonder what that is. And then contact information, and then the, why you're receiving this notice stuff. And so far it seems to be working fine. I have placed numerous holds for myself and, gotten it back, and it looks good. So my issue is, let's see. So if I go into a patron record and go into their notices tab and then view it here.
I know what your issue is going to be.
It looks all, like that. And I tried to do some things, but nothing's, I can't seem to target anything, and it's in an iframe.
We're still seeing the picture.
Let me see. Picture.
Whenever the HTML, the page that presents the notices always, I think it adds its own HTML into what you're seeing there, and it messes everything up.
So do you see it now?
Yeah, it doesn't look as good.
Yeah, it doesn't look as nice. And
the notices never look as nice in that page.
And so is there anything that can be done about it?
That's a development question.
It's pretty tricky because that page is gonna apply its own CSS from that page too. I don't know if there's any way to say turn that off.
Yeah, just for that frame, I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Yeah, I tried. It adds, well, that's not where I was looking. Somewhere it adds all of these breaks. Here it is, page breaks, all this stuff. And like here, it's adding breaks that aren't actually in my HTML. So it's adding in stuff from its own thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's the other CSS and rules that are applied to this notices.pl page are being applied to all of the elements of the page, including the ones that you don't want it applied to.
And it also, not that I know anything, but I knew it was in an iframe, so I saw this iframe, and it's somewhere else I saw that it was like iframe equal text, or it had something like that in it. So that made me feel like, you know, it's looking at it as just strict text. And then if you can't do anything to it, then I guess my question would be, if you're allowed to create a notice and have it be HTML, then doesn't it seem like you would want to be able to have it display that way here?
That would be ideal, but I can't think of a good way to do that. I think Lucas is, I hear typing, so I think he's
Yes.
thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm just kind of poking around. One, I'm wondering where those, because I'm guessing you flagged it as an HTML notice.
Yeah,
Um,
otherwise it didn't display correctly.
and you're not putting those breaks in there yourself. So
Mm-mm.
I wonder if, wondering if it's also like honoring white space, which if so, something maybe to try, and I do this in like overdue notices and stuff from time to time, when it honors all the white space, is minimizing your HTML.
Yes, I remember that from when we worked on our overdue notice.
Right.
I may try that.
Which you can just Google HTML minimizer. There's a ton of them out there. It just shrinks your code down, makes it really hard to edit, but you can also then
Right.
Google like a HTML beautifier
Mm-hmm.
when you need to edit it.
Right.
And get your formatting back.
Cool. I'll try
Potentially
that.
would help. But that's not going to help with if CSS from this page, notices.pl, is being applied. It's going to try to apply it to elements inside of your notice. I don't know if there's anything that could be done about that.
So does anybody think, I don't know how it would happen, but would you think that it's a good idea to like file a bug to say, if you have HTML notices, then this page should honor it?
It couldn't hurt to see what some folks would say.
One thought I was having, and not that I know the architecture of any of this, but like if the notice is an HTML notice, instead of like displaying it here in the iframe, have like an extra button or something that you click on to bring it up in a modal or something like that, you know, to have a different way of displaying.
That's not a, but I could see that. It's like, if you look at the news feature now, we show the preview of that HTML content in a modal. So maybe something similar. Which could also actually be nice for just readability of your notices. As you scroll down there and you have to look at a big section of HTML, it's kind of awkward. Maybe if you had to click a button and pop up at a modal, it would make this table much nicer looking, easier to read.
And you have to click anyways to pop open the notice. So if it's clicking a button instead of clicking the link.
Yeah.
I guess the advantage I see to having it laid out in the table like this is if you pop open all those windows and you're searching for something in particular, like I've got patrons that'll have like, 200 notices. And if you're trying to find one thing, if you pop open like 10 of them and then do a search, like a Firefox Control F search, you can find things that way and you would lose that ability. if everything was in, if you had to open each one in a separate modal, you would lose that. And that's something that, we have a lot of patrons with a lot of stuff checked out and get a lot of notices. So that would be a problem, especially for the hold available notice, because those aren't digestible.
Right.
That to me would be a bigger feat, would be making the hold notices digestible, because that might not be such a big issue in a library like Barbara's, where there's only one branch or a couple of branches. But when we have courier delivering boxes full of stuff, and then things get checked in, and you'll have a patron that'll have like 10 items get checked in all at the same time, and then 15 minutes later they get 10 hold available notices all at once. So
yeah, we have our specific patrons that are like that, and they'll have 10 things and they'll get it all at once. And we've had some complaints, about that. So we'd like a whole digest notice.
yeah, but that's a different issue. So
Yeah.
I think on this, if you file a bug, maybe the suggestion would be to not change anything that's going on here, but add another column like the preview content column in news, so you can also see it rendered in a modal, or have it the way it is now.
Add another column. Say the rest of it.
Similar to how the news renders HTML content.
Thanks. And then the other just weird display thing, which I'm sure it's all because this is HTML, but I have a report that is recently sent hold notices. And so here's my pretty notice, and then the rest of the table cuts off, and here's the rest. And then the rest of them go down the page and display like this. And it's not that I use this report much, but that was interesting that it could be something about my HTML. I'm not the best, and I could be missing something, or I may not have it constructed the best, but that was kind of interesting when I ran that report.
Yeah, anything like that. I have a report that generates the output is includes any output that includes things like if you put do a report that's going to output the intranet user JS data into the results of a report, that just blows apart the whole page because it's trying to run all that JS. With HTML, with my notices, what I do is I tell it to replace the left angle bracket with a different with the HTML code for left angle brackets, so that it displays as HTML, as raw HTML instead of rendered HTML. But I don't know what your goal is with this report, just to...
It was just after partly I created it because during testing, I wanted to see what was going on. And because I needed to actually send notices, I was wondering how many poor people I might be affecting with really awful content if it wasn't working correctly. So I was doing it in little, send one to my husband, this is his, and then put the code back, and I just wanted to see what all was going on. So, I mean, I may not even use this much, but.
Well, I think it looks great. I think nice. The result for your borrowers is gonna be, a really cool looking email that they're gonna ignore. They they ignore them no matter how they look. But it looks great.
Thanks.
So it looks very professional.
That's what we were after. We had had a presentation from a third-party vendor about all the cool things they can do to connect with your patrons. However, their cost for what they want is not something we can do.
Yeah.
So we started looking at, well, what could we come up with on our own? The next one I think we're going to try to do is to take the I think it's the account details notice, which we don't actually use.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here self-registers. So you come into the library, we take you to a computer, we tell you to fill out the form and then come back to the desk with your ID and all of that. So we don't actually send out that sort of default form that says, here's your number and here's your password, and because that's not going to be true for them.
Right.
But I was thinking of taking that and replacing it and making it like a welcome message. And have it also be, you know, pretty like this. So we'll see.
It's making me want to up my game with notices because that really does look good.
Thank you. One other weird thing I encountered, and I'm assuming it's because of creating this notice, because of the timing. Is, let's see. This report is notices not sent to patrons. And it used to come up with the patron name and it was an overdue to, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And now when I check it, all I ever see is this. And I'm not sure why.
What column is that? That's content?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's connected, because the whole pickup stuff never showed in here. It was always like an overdue, a second notice, that kind of stuff. But this happened after I started doing the other notice. So it's always interesting to me how interconnected everything is, and you change one thing and you don't think it's going to affect something else, and then so I'll probably put in a ticket on that one because I don't know what's going on there.
Some kind of it's wrongly encoding something.
You think?
Yeah.
So that's all I had.
I put a link in the chat box to the somebody should make the hold notices digestible bug. I don't know if anybody else here signed off or added their +1 to that, but I think it would be a great thing to. It would certainly solve a lot of problems for us. This isn't, I have an issue that I discovered after our upgrade that I haven't submitted a bug about yet because I've been trying to isolate it. But it's something that might be worth talking about here. Let me share my screen. Screen number 2. So you should see Koha, right, Eddie Frosty? All right. So he's got 2 things checked out. This one has been renewed 3 times. It's not renewable because it's been renewed too many times, but I also have placed an item level hold on it. And so if I go to override that, it's giving me the override checkbox, which shouldn't be there because it has a hold on it. But then when I renew it, we get this spin, and then it says renew failed. And as soon as that table finishes reloading, the message is gone. And so I'm talked in my regular call with Margaret yesterday. I mentioned this since our upgrade. And this is on my test server, which is a lot slower than our production server. On our production server, it happens so quick that you never even can really see what that message says. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to either make that message last longer until we can figure out if this is a bug or if it's something else. So I don't know, does anybody have any ideas there? I haven't checked it yet to see if it, I haven't done anything with this one to see. This is a title level hold. It was before lunch. I just finished eating my lunch that I started working on this. But I don't know if I so I suspended the hold, that title level hold, and let me renew this now. So now I'm getting that not renewable message. Let me unsuspend that hold. Yeah, it's going to do the same thing. Renew failed on hold. And then that just disappears instantly. So that's what I've been working on today. I haven't gotten very far yet. There was other issues today, so.
I think it might be that bug where it's giving priority to the not renewable message instead of the on hold message.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'll send this all to Bywater. I'll open an RT ticket to make sure they can confirm that it's this bug that's causing it. That was my first phone call. We did our upgrade on Sunday, and that was my first phone call Tuesday morning. Was I tried to renew this, and it's not letting me renew it, and I don't know why. In our production system, that message is there for like less than 1/10 of a second. It's so fast that you can't even, you can just tell that it says something different there and then it's gone. We are talking a bunch today, huh? I guess the other thing that I did that recently that I've done with every upgrade is I redid all my jQuery for the circulation fine rules for my code that hides columns and shows columns and all that stuff.
Did the upgrade break it?
The upgrade always breaks it. Whenever there are more columns added to that circulation matrix, then I have to go in. The thing that was weird this time that was took some extra work was this header along here. When you scroll up and down, it's sticky And so if I do this to show the columns the full width, I had to add some extra code to make sure that that header would be sticky in the right place.
I think a good bug to maybe file if it's not out there already is to make that circulation table column configurable through the
Yeah,
Roth tool.
yeah, that would save a lot of that would save a lot of work every time.
Yes.
What I have, I've had this code around for a long time. I just have jQuery that creates these. Oh, and I guess that doesn't. Yeah, there we go. Hide column is stuff that I wrote, but I guess it's not sticky in the right place, is it? It's a little off.
This reminds me, I was supposed to report about sticky, screwy table headers. Christopher and I talked about it a little bit, but like, I can show you what it's doing on this big messy window I've got. Eeny, meeny, miny, this one. So you see Bonnie the dog, is that what's visible? I shrink the window here so you can see what it does. So on the checkout screen, if I scroll down, the sticky happens. If I switch to a different tab, our clubs tab is really long because we're using that a lot. Then the circ header decides to overlap into it. And it just like keeps on adding stuff depending on what loads. So the whole table were long enough to scroll. Then it didn't do it. I don't know. It's weird. The sticky headers are weird. I haven't had any complaints about it. It sounded like Christopher had more complaints about it, so he wrote some jQuery to break it. But I told him that I would tell you, Lucas, that we were also experiencing that problem, and I never got around to it.
Yeah, now that you say it, I think Christopher mentioned that to me at some point. Do we know if there's a bug filed on that?
I don't know. He may have filed one.
I don't know if there is or not, but the sticky headers are weird is a great title for a bug.
Yeah, I didn't see anything there. Under sticky header, my Bugzilla searching hasn't been great lately though.
Those data tables, the reason they're sticky is because of that bug you're looking at right there, 27403, enable fixed header for data tables.
I see. Yeah. What else? I had another question. Oh, let me reshare. I've been playing with the API endpoints and I keep meaning to open a ticket, but since you're here, Lucas, I'll just ask you. I have to find a window I want to share. That's this one, isn't it? The koha-US website.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a dumb example, but I was playing with it here. I was trying to add subtitles to the holds queue, which it already has, but it doesn't always come through because the records are old and it hasn't been populated into the subtitle field. So like this one is pulling the double.
We're still seeing koha-US.
Yeah.
Oh, my screen sharing has paused. How about now? Hold queue.
There we go.
Yeah, holds queue.
All right. So this one I'm pulling that subtitle, the 245B, from the API. This one doesn't have a 245B, so I'm getting undefined errors, and that's the main issue I've been having with it. Like anytime I try and pull something, again, I'm getting undefined errors if the subfield isn't populated for a given record. So I was wondering if there's like an easy way to rule those out. Right now, I think for my series searching, all I've done is like waited for the page to load and then hidden anything that says undefined.
I guess my question is, can't you ask Bywater to do something so that the older records that don't have the 245 populated into the subtitle field, so that those get populated?
Yeah, that's why this was the dumb example.
Okay.
So the real example is our series searching. So I've got this set up where it looks at the 490V, the 490 AV, and then the 440 AV, and that works for the most part. But if I get to a point where there's something that doesn't have a V in either the 490 or the 440, then it shows the series number is undefined.
I think a jQuery way to fix that is just some pretty simple if statements. You just like to get it to stop saying undefined. You just have to say like if the 440A, then append it to the results summary.
Okay.
Does that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But is this I mean, you're on 2105 now, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's also a dumb example. So the series information has been built into the default XSLT, but the way that it traces is unfavorable to my catalogers. Like if there's 800 fields, then it'll search the author and the title, and we just want that to be a straight title search every time you click on it. And this accomplishes that. So I don't have to use XSLT for that anymore.
Yeah, then I think just everywhere where you have those insert befores, before you do the insert before, just do a check on if the 490V or if the 440A or each one. So it will never return a undefined.
Cool. I'll play with that. What else is in here? Anything else we can talk about while I'm screen sharing?
Well, I was wondering what else you can use that, is it called API endpoint? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
How else, or what other ideas are there for, using that would be, I don't know. I mean, I've always heard about when it came about that, about series, but I just wondered.
I was using it for this, and I'll probably go back to using it for this. Right now, this is pulling from a report, but anywhere you want to pull information from the record where it's not already there is really handy. Those are the only two or three places I've used it so far.
It's nice if you, with the Biblio endpoint, which is unauthenticated now, meaning we can use it on the OPAC without the user being logged in. We can basically grab any piece of MARC and add it anywhere we want. So it can be pretty handy. And avoid something I really don't like is a custom XSLT. So if you can use jQuery to put a piece of info on your OPAC or staff client that is not there by default.
I can share that. I did use it in the OPAC. So I think it's only active on my test server right now, maybe. OPAC. If I go. So these icons here, I was able to put in based on MARC data. Let me see if I'm lying, if it's actually using the API, but I did figure out how to do it with the API. So I think that I have it working in my test server. I just haven't put it on my live server yet. Yeah, right there. The 007 icons via the API. So it's looking at different parts of the 007, and then if it finds the right combination for a certain format, so VDS is Blu-ray, VDV is DVD, and VHS is VFB. So anytime it finds that combination in the record, then it appends an icon that I created. So it's easy for the patron to see exactly what they're looking at, so they don't accidentally put a hold on a DVD instead of a Blu-ray or something like that.
And 007, is that you're looking at the leader?
No, not the leader. I forget what they call it. Those catalographers. Physical description. So on a DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, if the cataloging is right, it'll have a specific sequence of letters
Yeah,
to represent. So that's what I'm leveraging there.
nice.
Yeah, the big caveat there is if the cataloging is right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and my catalogers have gotten in the habit of actually going to the OPAC and like watching the new stuff come in there, and then they can see if the icon doesn't pop up, and they'll know that it needs fixed. Which
Our
I guess I could
catalogers
add the
were,
icon.
I think that the 007 is actually hidden from the framework in ours.
Oh yeah, by our catalogers I mean the people sitting over there across the room, not our librarians.
Yeah, and we don't have any of those here, so.
okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
So just, Barbara, maybe this is helpful too. If you append this part to your OPAC or your staff client URL, you will get a bunch of information about all the different API endpoints and their path. And if you click on them, sort of how they work. If you look for the ones that say public, and there's only a couple, these are the ones that are unauthenticated routes that we could write jQuery that for the OPAC, that anybody will be able to see those sort of pieces of information. The other ones, they're great for doing jQuery stuff in the staff client because you're always authenticated.
I'll take a look at that. Thanks.
I'll put this in the, just all you got to do is append that little thing. And there's more and more all the time. I think Tomas is working on one for messaging preferences, which will be extremely useful.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the it's like opens up a whole new world of customization. Like I keep coming back to things that I couldn't do before that I'm like, oh wait, I can do that now. Like all I have to do is use the API for that. So that might be a good use for this group, is to start collecting extended uses or new things we're doing with it, to try and generate more ideas.
Yeah, and there's more too than just like getting info. If you look at that screen I just shared, you'll see a lot of them will say that they're get, so you can get data, but you'll also see post, meaning you can, like API v1 quotes post, meaning you can write your query to add a quote, to renew stuff. Delete is in there too, so there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. A little dangerous, in fact.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds kind of dangerous. Oh, I guess I can mention, completely unrelated, at acquisitions, I had brought up an issue with purchase suggestions. So in the upgrade, it changed the display. So the library see how many purchase suggestions they have on the homepage now. which is great. If they don't have any pending suggestions, then that link goes away entirely, which has confused some of my people because that's how they get to the purchase suggestions area. It's a training issue because I know there's a link in the header, but I also wrote some jQuery to just, since that's all we use acquisitions for, I just swapped out the acquisitions link on the homepage for page or purchase suggestions. So
That's where
I'll show you.
I think there's a bug.
So that used to say acquisitions and I just changed it. I haven't launched that into my live server either, but there is a bug for that.
If I'm understanding you correctly, it's to do with suggestions and if your branch has any suggestions or not.
Yeah, here I can actually show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can manage screens again. So this library has suggestions. So it's got 7 for Iowa, 70 total for all libraries. If I set my library to one that's just got, that doesn't have any, then that link goes away entirely. So that was what was causing the confusion. Now that link's not there anymore, which makes sense because they don't have any pending, but it also doesn't make sense because they don't have access to the total for the
They've never
consortium.
had to get to purchase suggestions any other way than just clicking that link.
Right.
And so they don't know how to get there.
Even though we have this very handy thing that I've never gotten rid of, there's a dot there that takes you to purchase suggestions in my live site. I inherited that and I never got rid of it, but there's also suggestions here. So I'm gonna quietly do away with that dot someday. I just haven't decided the right time.
During an upgrade is the perfect time. That's the way I call it stealth upgrades, where you just change something on the system with jQuery or CSS on the night that you do an upgrade, and then you just tell everybody that's part of the upgrade.
Must have been a bug fix patch.
Yep, somebody fixed that bug, so it's not there anymore.
I think that that bug is fixed by the one I just linked in chat, 29571, which will make that link show if there's any suggestions system-wide, and it'll show your library has 0, but there's 7 for the system.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how I thought it should work. So I looked at that where they pushed in the feature and it didn't seem like anybody tested the scenario where the library doesn't have any suggestions. So I wondered if it was just overlooked.
And that fix is pushed for 210508, which for Bywater partners, I think means next week. Don't quote me on that, but it's soon.
Oh, cool. Then I'll just keep ignoring the problem and not worry about this extra jQuery.
I think 210508 is really soon because we were just upgraded last weekend and that's what we're on. Yes, 210508.
Oh, you're already on it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on 07. I just looked. So
that's the benefit of upgrading last.
Yeah, we're on 08.
well, now I just feel behind.
Hey, you're on 007, man. That's cool.
I suppose it's worth mentioning here. I just met earlier this week with a contingent of support companies. Me from Bywater, Biblieb is going to spearhead a 2205 staff client redesign. So we'll see where that goes in the initial meeting this week. But they have some big plans for a redesign on the staff client.
Great.
That I don't sense enthusiasm.
I'm not enthusiastic about anything right now. It sounds like a lot of extra work.
Yeah, that's scary. But I mean, it'll be good. It's just usually upgrades are minor and our libraries don't notice most of the changes. And if you're making large cosmetic changes to the staff client, they won't like it until they get used to it.
Yeah,
But
we'll see where it goes. I think it's very, very difficult to get things through the community that make large changes, even if they're cosmetic. If we're moving pieces around, that's gonna
Yeah.
people off. So
I described one time to somebody that this is back when I was still in Idaho. I said, you know, when I don't remember what it was, something had moved from like here to here. It moved like this far across the page during an upgrade, and my staff at the circulation desk in Moscow were like, you know, this is the end of the world. Would just shoot me. I'm sick of all these changes. You know, how am I supposed to find this? It's all the way over there. And then like 2 days later was like, how's that going now? It's like, oh, I don't even notice it anymore. So they scream at the universe, why God, why has it changed? And then 2 days later, they don't even remember that there's a change. So
yeah.
do you know if is it gonna make like the staff client more responsive? I know it's not very fun to try and fumble around the staff client on a mobile device.
We talked about that briefly, actually, and the kind of the consensus was like, we don't think that people use the staff client from their mobile device. Although I think maybe tablets sometimes was.
I think iPads.
My iPad.
For maybe for certain like circulation functions, looking at your holds queue, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't
or
know.
For I've used tablets when I was at a library where I did reference. You can walk around the library and you know, interact with people and have the catalog right there in your hand.
My dodo brain thing is when I go out to train libraries, I have to sometimes adjust their permissions. And so I'm trying to do that on my phone instead of a computer when I could just like push them aside and log in on my own account. But trying to change permissions on my phone is not a good thing to do anyways. But that's where my brain went, was like, it would be nice if I could run through that.
There's certain staff client pages I could see would be a nightmare for. I'm thinking of Circ and Fine rules from your phone, probably.
Yeah, that wouldn't work on your phone. No. I have you know, 3 screens, and the table stretches from the left side of this screen to the, you know, just to the edge of the 3rd screen, a little bit over if it's fully blown out all the way. So, and it's gotten bigger. You know, there's at least 10 more columns on there than there were when I started with Koha. And just, well, I guess that's one a year, one new column a year.
Yeah, it's an area where you're always adding columns, probably very rarely taking them back or removing
I can't
them.
think of one column that's ever been removed from that.
Yeah,
table.
I can't.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about this. This is in April. It'll be 10 years that I've been using Koha. Wow.
We have been talking about at the consortia group, maybe we need a separate rules table or a separate admin page for holds, right? Yeah. So we could take some columns out of the Circfine rules table and put them in some sort of hold policy rules table. Yeah. Well.
There was a Circuit Fines page rewrite at one point bug out there. I think it lost any traction.
Not yours, George.
It is. NEKLS paid for that, and it was in development when I got here. And one of the reasons it's lost traction is because I feel like I don't have any stake in it. You know, it was all ideas that somebody else had, and some of them were ideas that I didn't necessarily like or agree with. And so I don't really push hard on it. And so consequently, not a lot of work gets done on it. So
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around how that could be laid out differently anyways. I
Yeah,
mean,
and all the, I think, ideas have been not great. You can go from a wide column, wide page to a long page, but
that was
it's
exactly
long,
the issue I had, is the way Heather wanted it. Heather was the person before me, and essentially what she wanted done was to take it from something that's like 5 miles wide to have it being something that's 5 miles tall. And one of the interesting features that I liked was there was a built-in functionality. The only thing that I really liked about it was that there was a way to test a rule to see if it was redundant. There was a way to test rules to see if it was necessary. When we went into the pandemic, and I had to change all these rules for all these libraries, and I'm doing all this every day. You know, that first month of the pandemic working from home, I went through all 51 libraries. I went through all of their circ rules and deleted the redundant rules. And I deleted over 600 redundant rules because, you know, over time, rules get added. It's really easy to add a rule, but then when you don't need it anymore, or when you've created a new all rule that covers it, or you've created a sub rule that's already covered, you know, it just, you know, there were, I think it was 660 something rules that I got rid of just because they weren't doing anything. So that would be nice to have a test to say these rules are redundant, but I've kind of built a report that looks for those anyway. So, that's another advantage you have, Barbara.
Being single.
Yeah, just being one library. There's,
I've always, when I hear y'all talk about some of those things, I think, thank God I only have one library to deal with.
Yeah. When I worked at Valnet, it was particularly difficult because, you know, even before we were using Koha, when we were using Voyager, I would go to these circulation meetings and everybody would say, it would be great if we could all just agree to have the same circulation rules. And all the circulation people would be there and they'd say, yes, we should all have the same circulation rules. Yes, we should all have the same circulation rules. And then somebody would say, what should those rules be? And they should say, well, they should be based on our rules. It's like everybody wants everybody to have the same rules so long as they're exactly the same as the rules that they already have. You know, even just being one organization, like one district with multiple branches and having just one set of rules would make my life a lot easier.
agree.
Yeah. I don't know how Bob handles it because they've got, you know, way more. You know, we've got 50 libraries and Bob's got way more than that. So.
Well, what other, sorry, I didn't realize it was unmuted. What other stuff do we want to talk about? Do we want to, like, it's the first meeting of the year. Should we talk about publicizing this group? Should we talk about rebranding this group? I know there's some, at least yesterday, it sounded like some confusion about our use of the terminology development in different places. So calling this web development might be off-putting to people, since we're not.
What did we decide at the education meeting was a better way to describe development?
Well, I think the division is development is more back-endy stuff and customization is more what we do.
And also we thought that some of the development, at least from what we were talking yesterday, was like paid development compared to the CSS or jQuery that
right
we can do on our own if we have that ability to do that.
The customization special interest group, the Koha customization. That sounds just as off-putting actually because it's got a Z in it.
Well, it's also, you know, like we tried to rebrand, was it user services to circulation? I guess that maybe helped a little, but
There's
I'm not
people
sure.
showing up to the meetings now,
You know, I'm not
but not
sure
a lot.
how- And it occurs at a time that's not real great for me, so I haven't really attended.
That's another thing I guess I wanted to ask is if we wanted to look at other times. I mean, for at least 3 of us, it's lunchtime right now. I don't know what time zone Lucas is in, but it's noon here.
Yeah, it's noon here too. I'm Mountain Time.
Well, it's noon now.
Well,
yeah.
it's one
Yeah.
here now for us. So we could entertain the idea of changing our time slot to, I don't know if that picks up anybody new either, because we tried to do that a lot with the consortium SIG and it didn't really help. So I don't know, I just thought I'd throw that out as a topic of discussion as we wrap up. Maybe we can think about it and revisit the ideas in next month.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I personally don't mind coming at lunchtime. I actually brought my lunch, you know, that's why I had my camera off half the times because I was eating a sandwich.
As far as times or days go, I'm fairly open to any change.
Okay, well, I guess we can shop around and also maybe ask around to see if there's other people interested that might be able to meet at a different time more frequently.
Christopher Brandon, it's 11 o'clock right now. I don't know where Lizette is. They're in the same time zone. They often come to these meetings. So
Yeah, so hit him up, see why it's not here.
I can ask. I'll see Christopher I'll talk to him on Monday. So we're doing another video on Monday. I don't remember what it's about though. So.
All right, well, we made our hour, so I think it's a good time to bring it to an end. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
See
See you
ya.
next month.
Next month.